Well, we're gonna try our sunrise over the rice fields in Cambodia in a different underpainting approach. If you'd seen the previous video with watercolor underpainting on the UART 500 board, what we're gonna do this time is use an alcohol underpainting, but we're gonna also use it as a complementary color approach. So in our scene, we have lots of green in the rice fields. So it's green heavy in that area. So really, if you look at the color wheel, we're in this area of the color wheel. And so what we're gonna do is take a complementary approach. We're gonna go over and use red and red violet a lot in our underpainting. So we're gonna create some color stimulation so that green doesn't get boring, just and too mundane. I love this particular approach. I think it works really well. So with the alcohol underpainting, the first thing you're gonna do is actually apply some dry pigment directly on the surface of the sanded board. Now this is UART 400. It's mounted to gator board, and I just tacked it up to a black foam board so we can easily work. But I'm gonna mass in some soft pastel right on this directly, and then we're gonna wash right in with alcohol. So here we go. I'm gonna just begin to draw out the basic composition again. We'll separate the sky from the land here. This is a little bit of a longer composition as well than the previous attempt. Okay. Now we're going to come down the top edge of this river and the reflections on the water. Starts real thin at the back and then opens up, kind of isn't a very straight line due to all these wonderful grasses in the rice field. And we want to make sure that we understand the location of our sunrise. So we've got some background tree line here, just sitting over the horizon. And there's some cloud layers as well. I just want to see that cloud layer that kind of wraps itself right over the top of the sunlight. Get that in. There we go. It's a simple composition. Our location for the sun is going to be right about here, and then in here. This is the important part of the painting, right in here. So that's where all this wonderful warm color is going to reside. Got some light striking the clouds up top in a brilliant way. Okay, I don't need too much here to get this started. So what we'll do now is we're gonna begin by massing in with the complementary colors. So as I look, I think just clean this for a moment. Yeah, that's nice. It's a nice kind of mauvey red. Let's start with this. Again, I'll squint my eyes and just look at the big shapes, and I'm gonna just start to lay in with a light touch. This is a light touch. Now I'm using soft pastel. You know, you can start with hard pastel if you like as well, but I love getting that nice, rich pigmentation of the soft pastel into the painting very quickly. And we're just trying to develop the big masses of the rice fields. This is intentionally getting this red underneath the green. Now I'll shift over to a different red. I don't know if that's too different. You know, just for fun, we're going to use a really rich, bold red. So here's the two reds. If you can see that, this will be a richer, deeper red. And let's just sneak that in. right around where the sun will happen. Now, when you're going to alcohol wash this, you don't need tons and tons of pigment. It stains really well. I think I'll just shift toward a little bit of we're going to move to that red-violet area where we're in the reds. We're going to move into this red-violet area further away from the light. So come over here, much cooler. Get some of this wonderful cooler magenta. Okay. Well, that's mostly what I need in the land. I'm just going to try a little bit of something in the cloud area. I'll use a lighter violet. If it's in the red family, we can go for it. Let's try this. So we just a little bit more of the cloud, the tree line there above the land that I missed. And I'm using a pink now. So these clouds that drift across, I'm gonna even get a little bit of them in now so that I can stain them in initially. The underpainting will fully stain this pigment into the surface. Now, as we develop this painting, there's almost endless layers of tooth that you can continue to develop with the sanded paper, which is a tremendous virtue of working on the sanded surfaces. But I'm gonna grab the alcohol. I use denatured alcohol and begin to paint in. That's gonna be our next step. Okay, now comes the fun part. I've set aside some denatured alcohol in this tray. I just get the denatured alcohol from the hardware store down the street. It works great. Got it in a little pan here. I use a flat watercolor brush. I really like these flat watercolor brushes for my underpainting. And I'm going to be using the paper towel quite a bit to adjust how much is on the brush. So I'm going to hold it in my hands probably. I'll take a couple of sheets actually. So this is the fun part. Here we go. Get some of this alcohol on the brush. Now the virtue of the alcohol is that it dries quickly. And we're just going to begin to stain this in. And I like to let those drips happen. Get this beautiful sort of washy wet look. Very similar in a way to the watercolor. The watercolor isn't quite as, there's moments where the more opaque colors will still look opaque in an alcohol wash because you're using that dry pigment initially. I always say if you're gonna, if you're doing an underpainting, you might as well have fun with it. So especially in a situation like this where it's a lot of field and grass, just let those textures happen. Let the drips move around a little. Move towards the lavender here. Now when you get some pigment on your brush, you can even use it in its faint, just that little tint in the brush can tint the water. Come up to the upper area of the field here. Just keeping an eye on the horizon line and where the trees finish. We don't want to push up into the sky and make a big mess. And you can have fun just experimenting and learning how much alcohol you like to use. If you use more, you can do lots with the drips. The drips can be fun. If you use a drier brush approach, it'll look a little bit more like a dry brush effect, right? Where you just get those little brush strokes start to finish off because you don't have as much alcohol in the brush. Now when you're using sanded papers, you know, some sanded papers can't handle alcohol, others can. The UART is good for pretty much anything you want to use. Mineral spirits, alcohol, water, it'll take a beating. This is great. This is exactly what I was trying to develop, is a nice, colorful underpainting that we can work the cooler greens on top of. I'm just gonna flicker my brush across the water here a little bit. Let's just stain down these clouds. There we go. I want them to diffuse a little bit as they go away from the light, so I'm just gonna get it good and wet. That'll diffuse that pigment. Now, if you're working on location, you don't have the luxury of being in the studio. Alcohol is great because it dries very quickly. So if you're trying to get a painting done in an hour, 90 minutes, 2 hours on location, this is an excellent way to underpaint. Just take that pink a little further in through the sky. Once the pigment is stained onto the paper, it's in there. You won't be able to move it around once it's dry. And that's fantastic as we begin to paint over it. Create a little more harmony in this initial, that nice soft edges. With the dry pigment that we'll use over the top, we can bring out lots of brilliance and light. It's important to establish the color and the atmosphere in this complementary underpainting. Well, this is really what I wanted to do. Get a nice strong color underneath the painting. So I've got this strong red and red violet, and as we bring the greens at the next stage of the painting, that will just be a very exciting color combination. But you know, have fun with these complementary underpaintings, and it's less about having a perfectly painted scene, more about getting lots of great color underneath that's going to stimulate the eye as you develop the painting. Well, we've got our complementary underpainting all dry and stained into the paper, so this stage of the painting really is all finished.